Yay.
Okay, so we thought about a few things that we could talk to you about today, and I guess we can just kind of present the different areas that we would be interested in talking about, and maybe you guys can see what interests you the most, and then we can just choose to explore one of those avenues together. So one of the things is our recent experiments with forming crews. So we started by experimenting with a Microsolidarity idea, and we didn't have any gathering, and we didn't start with a congregation. We just started playing around with inviting a few friends and starting with forming small groups of people. So right now we have 2 ongoing crews, and we're kind of trying how this goes. Some of them we knew before, some of them we only knew them online, so not even we don't even know all of them face to face from previous meetings. So yeah, we're just kind of experimenting with that. We're very much focused on exploring ways to just connect with people and explore authentic relating and practice being vulnerable. Anything you want to add to this?
That I guess we don't really have like a specific, it's not like a specific container or a project, so we're not even trying to aim to build a congregation out of it. It's really just to practice, because we felt that we don't have much experience of working in this setup. So we've been, facilitating many projects in the past, but then for last maybe 3 years, we've just been working on our own, and we have a business together. So we're doing things together, but it was just the 2 of us. So we haven't been really exercising this muscle of being with other people in something. So I guess, yeah, there's not really we don't really know where it's going to go. It's just to exercise and practice. But there is also this end goal that we see maybe, or like not end goal, but like a compass that kind of points us towards, being a part of something bigger and nicer. And when we read Microsolidarity proposal and found this website, it sent us down this rabbit hole of research and finding like, wow, I finally have vocabulary to express what I'm looking for. So that's great. And I think I really love this idea of verbs, not nouns, and just like doing the thing. So that's why I thought, okay, let's not overthink this and try to design a perfect congregation. Let's just like create a pod and start seeing what can happen.
Yeah, so we started kind of the other way around. We first are starting with crews, and yeah, we're just really exploring with formats, and we're telling people, look, we want to spend some time with you, see what we can do together, have fun, connect with each other, build intimacy, and we're just really seeing how that goes. So that's one part of it.
Yes. The other part is our business. So we have a business based around personal development, and this kind of first, let's say, anchor point is journaling. So just exploring personal development via journaling. But we're also realizing that we want to talk about so much more, and this journaling is just like a niche-y thing that keeps us very focused, but it's much more than that. And we launched our first course, I think in November last year, and we had this Q&A calls that we just didn't really know what they're going to be. We just kind of felt intuitively after meeting Francesca Pick and Manel. They kind of told us about online workshops, and they shown us, and we did one workshop with them together, and it was lots of fun. So we thought, okay, let's try to do something like this. And this just blew our mind. There was only maybe 5 people that were coming kind of to every call that we did, but those guys, wow, the progress they've made, and also the vibe of this was just so magical that we really felt, okay, this is definitely something that can work for us business-wise, and just working in those small groups that are kind of like pods, but they're paid experience, right? So it's like there's this big difference. But this is definitely something that can work, and it's just so magical, and people wanted us to continue this, so they actually asked if we can do something after the course is over. So we basically pitched an idea to them that, okay, now we're going to experiment with we called it the mastermind, and there's just going to be five of them plus the two of us as facilitators, and we're just going to try to we're just going to experiment and try to continue with this. And we set ourselves a project for 4 months, but basically now we want to make our model go with that. So basically the course that we're launching now, it's going to also have this very heavy component of calls. And I guess ultimately we would like to explore this idea of having intimate groups, that it's kind of like a congregation, right? But it's within a business. So, or at least it's based somehow around the business. And I guess this brings quite some uncertainties, and we don't really know how to go around some things about pricing, and, you know, should it be really small and intimate, because then it's like really powerful, but then it needs to be more expensive because we cannot scale our time, and, you know, should be decentralized and just like open it completely to everyone to participate however they want, or yeah, so there's a bit of confusion there.
And I guess we have a few questions regarding this. So one of them, it's how can we, as two external facilitators, because we know that this has been working and we know that people are enjoying it, and we are really enjoying creating this space for people and just kind of organically forming it from a group from the course, and then people who really stay, they show this interest in having a cohort, a mastermind, smaller group of people. So how do we manage to facilitate the interactions between them and help them as a group create this trust and this mutual help for something, for personal development, basically? Something else is, the financial side of it, because I guess we're just kind of figuring out how to turn this into a business, because sometimes it's a bit tricky to think, okay, how much do we charge people? And this time we didn't pay as you want. So people did the course and then they expressed interest, some of the students, in continuing. And then we just said, okay, let's do something experimental. You guys can contribute as much as you like, and let's have these 4 sessions, one every month. And now we're doing it like that. And we got a very varied range of values that they contribute. So one is how to facilitate this, being that we are 2 external facilitators. Another one is the financial side of it, also being that it's our business and that we are 2 external facilitators. This is more or less it. And then we could also explore what we are doing with our own crews, where we are part of the crews, and where that can lead us. And
so of course we have no expectations to cover everything in this call. Absolutely, I guess this is obvious, but we just wanted to give you like this kind of a bigger picture, and each of those can be dissected in so many different ways. So,
and I guess most of all, for me, I just want to chat with you guys. That is not necessarily something I want to get from this. I just want to spend time with you and talk about things that feel interesting for all of us, and hopefully all of us can take out something.
Contribute as much as we can to your work as well.
Sure thing. And it's very interesting because, the first call we had was about, we were setting up our online course as well. So this kind of ties together. So I can share with you what we thought for our online course, that we haven't tested it yet because we haven't run a guided cohort. So far we only have like a self-paced thing. So people buy the content and follow it at their own pace. But for the cohort, our idea was so it's a several weeks cohort, and the idea is that people will be inside pods. So they will be in a little crew through the course, when they will be practicing things together and supporting each other. So in a way, it's kind of similar to what I hear that you're trying to do. And for me, that was part of the pricing, was you get to meet others and you'll be supported in your journey, not only through us as the main facilitators, but through a smaller, tighter crew, because there's only as many people as we can hold, right? Mm-hmm. And in the bigger space of a course, maybe you have 20 people or 30 people or however much you have, but it's in that smaller space when you create that intimacy that actually the development can happen, right? That's my perspective, at least. So from that sense, I think you can still price it as the whole journey is you're learning things and you're also being supported with you two and with the crew. Then it's like, how do you set up those crews? That's a like another level to it. We haven't really, we had some ideas, but we haven't really put it in practice. So I don't know.
Can you tell me more about what values are at play when you make a pay what you can or pay what you like price? Like why did you choose that?
Why did we choose that?
Yeah, what are you hoping to achieve by having that? You know, because it's quite an unusual transaction.
I think it's because it was for the student who already experienced the calls before. So our thinking was they know the value of it because they experienced it. Because it's very different when you're trying to communicate the value of this experience to someone who never experienced this, because then just like, it's different. So we knew that they loved it because they just told us and they wanted more. So but then we also felt we don't feel comfortable giving a set price because it would kind of have to be expensive to, just kind of make sense. But because it's such an intimate experience, but then, we just thought it's better because it's an experiment. And we also didn't want to pretend like we know how to do this. And what we wanted to get out of it is not really the financial aspect of it, but just to have the experience of putting those 5 people in one space where there isn't a course anymore because the course is finished, and they actually came from 2 different courses. So we're running 2 parallel courses. So there was 2 people from one and 3 from the other. And just have this experience. And we also wanted to check what will be the values they contribute, just to have a sense.
We wanted to see how much they value this, and also because it's the first time we're doing this in this module. So we wanted to assume that this is an experiment and just tell them, okay, guys, let's do this together. Let's see how it works. And in a way, it doesn't bring a lot of expectations and gives us freedom to experiment. So it was kind of a little bit of all of that.
And the other bit is, can you tell us a little about your context? Like, are you in a position where you really need to be selling stuff and making money, or else you're going to be in trouble? Or are you in a position where you've got the freedom to kind of do work for free for maybe a few months? And, like how kind of urgent is the income need?
We would like to be making income right now because this is our main source of income, is our business. And right now it's our online courses. So this is pretty much it.
Like we have, a little bit of financial stability, and we have some cash to flow for some months, maybe. Also, we live in a place where it's quite cheap to live. But this is that's the only thing we do. So again, now we have this new course that we're launching. So it's going to be, again, something different because it's to the new kind of people who haven't subscribed yet. So we kind of changed everything and put a new landing page and changed the course also. Now it's more heavy on those interactions. So there is some degree of pressure also financially. We cannot continue working for free for infinite or foreseeable future.
Yeah, and it's the new course, then you're already incorporating the idea of people being in crews.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you already thought about it, and it's part of the pricing model.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, we didn't introduce it as crews. We're just basically not expecting to have more than, we're aiming, if we can have 20, 25 people enrolled, we're super happy with that. We're not really expecting to have much more because of, how big our audience is, what is the pricing and all of that. And with this kind of group, we still feel like we can hold this amount of people and create this intimacy, even if it would be different with a bigger group of people. But we've been exploring quite a bit with online calls and how to, also that's what we're using our current mastermind for, just to try different formats, see what works.
Yeah. But it's still the idea that you're going to basically encourage people to be in smaller groups to do the work.
In the course.
Yeah. In the new course. Because you can have 25 and be doing everything all the time together, or you can put them in groups of 4 or 5 and then they'll be doing a lot of the work internally in a way.
So the way how we've been thinking about it so far is the course itself would give the kind of content part, and the calls would be more like practical exercises and connection in small groups. So we wouldn't like call them necessarily pods and you are always with those people, you are always with those, but we would be always using breakout rooms. Potentially, we haven't really thought if it should be always the same people or not. And there also would be like Discords to just communicate between.
Yeah.
So yeah, the idea is that I guess they work as a group of 20, but we would naturally try to weave the smaller groups just to create this intimacy level that at the group of 20 is maybe hard to do.
Yeah, and how long is it?
It's going to be 6 calls, 3 months.
Every
month. Okay, that's great, because that's quite a lot of time. I just wanted to share an experience that I had with the course that I was taking, where basically we were 20 people, and on the calls, we had some work, like some homework to do. It was only 4 calls, so 4 weeks, and we had some homework to do, and then on the calls there was some content delivery and some practices and things. So we will always practice in smaller groups with different people. But after the second call, they asked us to form a small group of practice. So by then, through the practices that we had done, we knew quite a lot of the people. So then they said, okay, now self-organize into smaller groups of practice. And there was a spreadsheet with, as many people as you needed for each practice, and people can just fit in and just by then maybe you have a sense of with whom you want to spend more time or have more conversations or something like that. So that could be an option as well, like that in between the calls. I think like it's a good idea that in the calls people get more interaction with other people, because you get different views and things like that, and different practices. But maybe you can also encourage like the formation of these smaller groups later on, maybe like a month in or something like this, when you already met some people, you can form that.
I was gonna share that we have, I think, the same reading as you, that it's hard to explain the value of this kind of practice to someone that hasn't done it, they haven't experienced it. And so it definitely makes sense to me to sell someone a course, like you're going to learn these skills and we've got expertise and we're transferring it, and that's the thing that you're purchasing. And I get this sense as well of, use the large group to remix and have it like a dating pool where people get to meet lots of different people and have many experiences. But after they've gone through that 3-month program, they might be willing to pay purely for facilitation, for the relational container, where you get to, and maybe you have to design the course to make that obvious that that's what's happening, that it's not just about, hey, we've got special knowledge. It's actually about the practices of relating that, unlocking so much value here. And so once you finish the program, then you're invited to join our, whatever you call it, practice club or something.
The alumni.
And you'll get, we'll have a regular facilitation thing, and everyone that shows up is looking for other buddies to be in a practice relationship with. And sure, you can start by facilitating some of the crews yourself, but you shouldn't have to do all of them. Like I suspect you could potentially, I think it's worth an experiment to have something like a membership fee, like a monthly fee to be part of this club, and people can start self-organizing and hosting each other, and like, so long as you have like a monthly call or something where people feel like you're doing some work, and like feeding some energy into it, they might be willing to pay, probably not a huge amount, but maybe enough, like a little kind of trickle. They'll probably pay more for the course and then be up for it's a good time to offer them a membership. And I could imagine mixing, people from all sorts of different courses on different content as well into the same kind of club, where they trust you, they're on some kind of journey, and they're just looking for other people who are on a related journey. I think that could work. I think it's worth experimenting, put it that way.
So interesting. I'm very happy to hear, and those are very, very, I love that, because what you're saying is so interesting. It's like we've been kind of thinking about very similar approach, but then you're adding the little missing pieces. So thanks a lot. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, Nati, you were talking about this course what they were in. So how often were you meeting, and how did it look like, more or less, and how many calls?
So it was 4 calls on 4 weeks. But we were asked on the second call, so on the second week, like for the last 2 weeks, we had to have, like, we were in this group to practice. It was a digital facilitation course. So in this little group, we were practicing using different tools, and we were also like setting up some sessions to run with the whole team, like some practices, basically. So
there was like extra calls.
Yeah, so it was extra calls to prep for the, for the whole group calls.
Mm.
And that price point was like 750 euros.
It was pretty pricey, yes, but yeah. But they do actually, now that you said that, I did receive an email saying that now if I want, I can join a community of practice. And there is a price point for that as well. I think it's something like $30 US a month or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Okay. Mm. I really like this idea of the monthly membership, and then there's this pool of people and you can just come to the monthly call and then self-organize. This is really cool.
Yeah. What I like about it is, because I guess we have, I mean, this is probably maybe mine. I don't know if I'm speaking also for you, but this kind of, I struggle sometimes with putting like financial value on personal development. And especially, so I struggle with that, for a long time. And now I'm kind of okay with that. Like, yeah, of course I need to charge for my time and make a living, and I'm not gonna make a good job if I'm starving. But then thinking also about, like letting go and letting people self-organize. I know there is a little bit of like, but then they don't need me, so what's the point of staying in the membership, But in the same time, I love it because it means, like, I think it's a very beautiful way of people who went through like really enriching experience to kind of pay back. And from what I've seen from people that are so far, like, we have 5 people, so it's just like very, very basic seed. But I can feel that they do appreciate the experience. So like they want to give back in terms of energy or their participation or other things. So it's not, it's very reassuring to see that, it's not about like ownership and trying to contain within your business bubble, but actually letting people do their own thing. And that's actually happening. So we've seen that some of them meet one-on-one, or they come to us saying, hey, I would like to do this workshop. And we say, sure, we have a Zoom room. Just tell us when is good and let's do it, So it's kind of amazing to see that actually instead of leaving, they're kind of participating.
Yeah.
So.
And I wonder as well, like I struggle as well with this idea of charging for things and charging for my time and how much. And I'm having to come to terms to it as well, because we run a business too and we do courses and things. But like there is a bunch of work that happens behind the scene that people don't see, right? Like all the organizing time, all the prepping time, all the communication, all the bringing people together, that is your time. So you can also think about like people are contributing to having all that happen that they don't have to do. They just need to sign up to a small group to practice, right? And if they want to bring extra energy and participate and get excited, then you can think about, is this maybe turning into a congregation? Is it turning into something bigger than just the course that they signed up for, or a community of practice or something like that? And there's a space as well where you can bring different practices. So you can, just always be feeding back into the team. Like, this is what we learned. This is a new practice, holding space for those practices to happen. There's a modeling when we talk about, growth and development. For us, there's a lot about the modeling that we do as facilitators. How do we show up in the space, and how do we hold space? And it's really hard to say you're learning something here, because it's, it's not explicit, but it is. Yeah. People are learning through it. Yeah. So
it's kind of like saying, I'm going to make a romantic gesture. Like if you say that, it's not romantic anymore.
But to the trained eye.
Yeah.
makes perfect sense.
I was going to say on this question about charging money and is it valuable and stuff. I think if you do an excellent job with the communication, just the simple stuff of like, this thing is happening at this time and this is what you need to know, and like if you provide that immediately a lot of people will recognize like I'm getting something valuable here because I'm being really well hosted, and that you bring your really best intentions and your energy and your preparation to the monthly call, and people will feel that too, like you've really thought about this and you're prepped, and it's not like you just, oh, I'm doing this thing now. Like if you show up with that kind of presence of mind and readiness, and if you give people some inspiration once a month, like people will feel like they're getting value, and it's easy enough for you to do that. I think just so long as you find for yourself what are these kind of minimum blocks that I really need to do well, and then if you're ticking those boxes every week or every month, then like, okay, this is working, and it might have to be clear for yourself about what's in those boxes.
I have a question though, beyond the business model and this, like, is there, and maybe you said it and I forgot, my brain's a bit tired, but is there a need as well for you to find your congregation or to build your congregation out of these people that are coming to you and they're doing this process? Is there something in there?
I think we haven't really been thinking in that way. I think there is more this separation of who are our clients and people who come through our business and they do our courses and we facilitate them as a group. And then there's this other part that is us reaching out to people completely unrelated to our business. So yeah, there is a separation. So this is kind of how I'm thinking about that.
And this also brings some kind of like a fair degree of confusion, I think, in some way. Like I guess in ideal world, it would be super nice to have it as one thing, so it's existing within something that is already the same people exist. I don't know, like a network type of thing, right? Like a congregation type of thing. But for now, we just haven't even started getting there. Like it's still two separate pillars.
Yeah.
So one is our search for where do we belong, or what is the congregation we want to join or start or participate in some way, and the other is the business side. But we would love to have like more integration there. It's just so far haven't been thinking.
Do you guys
about
have
it.
any thoughts on this or anything to suggest or something you feel about this personal experience?
Well, it's a bit tricky. Like I asked because I just was keen to hear from you too. But I guess that I was first part of a congregation before I started with pods, right? I brought the idea of pods to Inspiral. So I was already part of that congregation, and that's the space where I form pods and meet others and things like that. So it's a slightly different piece. There is a piece where we are now in Europe, and we're also thinking like what is our community of belonging here in Europe? Because a lot of Inspiral is in New Zealand. So we're trying to bring more Inspiral energy because that's where we already belong. So it's more like expanding that circle here. But I wonder, like, for me, it's more like if that's the desire that potentially those things could be merged, like what's the process to get there in the future, right? Maybe it's not right away, but like, how can you build those things so in a moment they
there's one version which makes sense to me because of the experience with Inspiral, which is you have a congregation and there's lots of different economic units in them, and some of them are like what we call the livelihood pod. So that's a bunch of freelancers basically that share some of their income to make it safer, and then you've got full-on businesses, and there's also like kind of sharing money within the congregation, and lots of different experiments and different dimensions. And it's that complicated, like polycentric approach, which really gives it resilience and means that we're learning a lot. Whereas what you're doing, it's like, well, it's clearly, there's currently only one economic unit, right? It's like you doing work and selling products. But it just thought, as I was thinking it through, you could think about it as two units. So there's a training business, and then there's a community of practice. And at the moment, the community of practice is being fed by the training business. 100%, but it could be being fed 50%. And that would immediately start to diversify a little bit. That like, I think it's conceivable that people would be willing to pay a small membership fee to be part of a congregation if they know that what they're going to get is reliable facilitation and they can feel safe in the knowledge that you've got the time to facilitate, like to keep beating the drum, even if you wind up sharing the roles around a lot, but that there's some people that are paid to keep their eyes on the fireplace or something. But it would be weird, I think, to have like the whole training business, which has got to be generating enough income for your whole, for your whole household, as it were. That seems like quite a lot to put on a congregation when it's the only one, like it'd make more sense maybe if there were lots of those and you're doing collaborations and sharing and having these kind of overlaps.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is where we would like to gradually start shifting, to so first have the training business component kind of not necessarily, fulfilling all our financial needs, but just enough so it's kind of providing some stability.
Yeah.
Then start, well, I don't know if then start or sometime earlier, but start adding some other components there. And I mean, what you guys were saying, like now you're in Europe and you're trying to also bring this Inspiral energy. Yeah, like from what we were kind of reading from all the work from you guys mostly about Inspiral and yeah, this ideas of organizing, this also resonates a lot with us. And it's kind of interesting because now we ended up in Pico Island in the middle of Atlantic Ocean, part of the Azores, which is just gorgeous. And we just recently started exploring it more just because of Corona restrictions. So we connected with some local.
Oh, we lost you.
Of course, on a very like different level because it's very local, right? It's not based on the internet, which is kind of amazing in a way, But there's lots of interest in community, and it seems like it's kind of. It's not that it's missing, but it's just like this very traditional way of like, people exchange food. I grow my potatoes, I give it to you, and then you help me, pull some things there, and, I bring your tractor around or whatever. But people are super kind, but they don't have this like pod-like groups, which seems like now after we've seen the power of it, we're thinking like, maybe we can bring a bit of that spirit here and see how it feels. Yeah, I don't know, like it's just interesting. Like there's this I like this idea that you're trying to also be more like local and not necessarily, I mean, there's beauty in global, right? And it's amazing, but there's also nice to, it's good to be within a car drive or a boat ride, not necessarily a plane.
I've got a friend who lives in Guernsey, which is another island like off the coast of France. I think there's 60,000 people live there. And he's on a mission. I think he wants to have a coffee with 10% of them, I think it was. So like he's really like, he's got an amazing big heart, big vision, very, very deep and very funny. And he's really like trying to activate the whole island. So I would really love it if you met him because he'll really inspire you with like approaches you can take with the local development. That's very like infectious and fun captain of fun. The other thought that I had on the money stuff is when you think about the people that you've, invited so far into the first two crews that are sort of like, whoa, we're just practicing. If you think about their character, are they the sort of people that maybe this year or next year that they would be starting their own sort of freelance or little businesses and could be interesting collaborators and that there could become this financial dimension to the solidarity, because I noticed on the paperwork you said something about emotional proximity, I think. So it was like, it's in the relationship space and there's nothing about the economics, I think. But do you think that they'd be open to the economics piece?
I think so, yeah, some of them. I mean, again, we haven't talked about it, but I have a feeling that, this is actually possible.
Cool.
Well, with one, I had this explicit conversation and like we both kind of felt similarly, like, wow, that would be interesting and definitely something to explore further. And with others, I think it's just basically feeling it. But all of them either have businesses or want to start one or work in some kind of doing some meaningful work in some kind of business somewhere. So like there is big resonance in terms of the work we're doing, even if it's sometimes very different, but actually there is a big common ground. So I think there is potential for that, for sure. Maybe.
And the content of the conversations that you're going to have as a crew, like, do you have a sense of, is there a balance between sometimes it's going to be sort of emotional, relational stuff, and sometimes they could bring a work project that they want insight on?
For now, it's very much on the personal side, but there's different, we're trying with different kinds of interactions. So for example, with one crew, we have this model where it's just, basically it's very free in terms of topics. We just, every second week we come together and we have like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then every person has a specific amount of time to share and hear from others. So it's just kind of like a sharing circle with some feedback. And then with another crew, we have specific topics that we discuss, and not just topics, but for example, we're going to have one session that's dedicated to just playing authentic relating games, and then talking about vulnerability. And it's different with
this one is particularly focused on emotions. The other one, because it's open, and what we've noticed is it's usually kind of half. So 2 people bring more personal things and 2 people bring more work related things, but they're
not
doing
talking
the same
about
thing.
But we're not working on one project together with any of those. We're just very much exploring interpersonal relationships.
That's cool. For me, it's really, it helps to kind of weave that, like, look, if you imagine in the long run, all these opportunities about shared finances, it's like, okay, what are the steps between here and there? And having some shared context about each other's work life and aspirations and what challenges they face and how you can help each other, all those sorts of things, they kind of set some of the, and you know, you're testing, how do we actually feel? Like, do we want to, you know, as it were, invest more in each other? You can kind of feel that out gently without having this kind of intimidating goal of like, we're going to share all of our money. Well,
sure. I really feel that way. I really feel like what's most important for me right now is to practice, first of all, how to be vulnerable with other people. I realized that I have so much to learn in that field, and just kind of go slowly with the intention of getting to know each other and opening up to each other. And I feel like right now I'm very happy with this.
And we feel for the 2 of us, this is really what makes our relationship as partners in business and love so resilient, that we've just done so much like work on emotional proximity and vulnerability and openness that now it's so easy to navigate any kind of conflict, either personal or work related. It's just like super easy. So it seems to make sense to start with this before adding a project into the mix.
For sure.
Although there are people, and I maybe I'm changing now, but for a long time, I found it easier to get to that proximity by doing a project. You know, like I find it much easier to talk to my dad in a meaningful way when we're like building a fence together or something, rather than sitting at the table with a beer. Like there's this kind of like, when we're hands are busy, somehow that opens me up. And I think with him as well, you know? So there is a room for that, doing practical stuff kind of as an excuse to get to the relationships.
Yeah, for sure. As you mentioned this, I also realized that, it's also true for me. It depends on the relationships and depends on the circumstances very much.
As an end goal, it's it's just like a dream, wild dream. In some years, I'd like to have a sailboat and do some crewing there. Like imagine, you know, cross the Atlantic with 10 people, and then you can do some intense sailing experience while doing personal development. It's like,
we need to link you with our friends.
We have a skipper. He would love you. He would love to be the captain of the good boat Microsolidarity. Do you sail, or is this a goal to learn that as well?
I have all my papers, still like, you know, not enough experience. It's like, it's kind of funny that people get driving license for sailboat after like few hours on sea, and it's like, hey, now you can cross the ocean, but maybe you shouldn't.
We'll send you we'll send you, maybe if we find the TED talk that Sandra did.
Oh yeah.
So Sandra and Lucas, they're part of Inspiro. They're Brazilians, and they travel by boat around the world for 3 years. And that's how they arrived in New Zealand. And,
with 2 babies.
With 2 babies.
Nice.
Well, one was pretty much born there. But yeah, she runs programs as well for self-development and for people to find what they want to do, like in terms of passion for their work and things like that. So I think you probably find a lot of resonance with what she shares.
They're like us, but a bit more mature and successful.
Pretty much. I think Lucas will love to hear that.
Yeah. I love the idea of doing it on a boat, because a boat is like it's an independent nation. You know, it's like people have their own expectations about. It's like it's like a fresh set of expectations, and it's life or death as well. So the stakes are really high.
And you have to be there because there's nowhere you can escape. You have to make it work. You just have to work through it.
Yeah.
Yep. So much to share about boats.
So, okay, it seems like we have quite a lot of material to think about. So where can we take it from here?
We have 13 minutes, I think, from the time.
I'm not strict about the time in this conversation.
No.
Well,
eventually I like to eat. That's the only thing.
Yeah, we'll eat at some point. I'm curious, as you think back on what you had in mind before we sat down to talk today, you know, were there any sort of burning issues or uncertainties or, you know, questions that you've been losing sleep about or anything like that you want to bring in?
So there is one part actually, but this one would be nice to cut out from the recording.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of internal dynamic within the group.
Let me say one thing and then switch the recording off, which is just to say the little bit of documentation you've done so far is so gold,
really good,
so valuable. And if I was the boss of the universe, I would demand that you keep going, but I'm not. So I'm just going to invite you to keep going, because there are so many new congregations and new crews that are starting, and the more of this kind of documentation we can have out there, the easier it's going to be for everyone, and everyone's going to start plugging in sideways and not going just directly to us, but connecting directly to each other and helping each other out. So it's so good, and I'm really grateful for what you've done so far, and I will love it if you keep going. It'll make me so happy.
Well, guys, you inspired this, really. I mean, it makes so much sense, and like so much stuff can be shared publicly without exposing private, you know, traumas and deep stuff.
Yeah.
It's so helpful. So yeah, thanks a lot for showing us that this can be done, and actually it makes so much sense. We also feel like we learned so much from how you are documenting things in Inspiro and Microsolidarity, and also learning how to document collaboratively, because it's usually, I feel, resistance to like taking notes, but when it's everyone doing it and everyone is adding whatever comes to their mind and whatever they feel like is relevant, it just makes it much easier. So we're enjoying the process very much. So we'll try to continue as long as we can.
Very good. Very good.
Okay, we'll stop the recording so we can share the rest.